T-Hink ready.
What's up, everybody? Welcome in. It is Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live. We are your hosts. I am Josh Elmer. He is Chris Meglio. You can follow us. I am at Josh on Ref. He is at Chris_Meglio. And of course, everybody should be following the voice of college football out there anywhere you can on social media at VOCFB on X, formerly known as Twitter, and just search Voice of College Football on YouTube, on Twitter, on Facebook, Instagram, you name it, you'll find the Voice of College Football. It is our inaugural call-in show tonight, so we're just here to talk Iowa football, basketball, baseball, whatever it may be with you. Share the link in the chat right there. You could just jump in by using that link to chat with us. But off the top, wanted to start here tonight. What defines success this season for Iowa in your mind?
I mean, no doubt the playoffs, right? You would have to think playoffs. I mean, every year we go 8-4, 9-3, 10-2. So now that's a standard. It's a standard we're going to be good. It's a standard that we're going to be among the best teams in the Big Ten. But what's the next step? It can't get no smaller, not even bigger. It can't get no smaller than at least making the playoffs. And that I understand it's only about 12 teams, soon to be 16 out of all college football. But with the pedigree that Iowa has, yes, we don't make the playoffs often, but now it's an expanded format. We have a better chance at making the playoffs, especially now with the revamped offense and when defensive players could actually step up and, take after those who have left. I think the playoffs is a no-brainer. That's an absolute no-brainer.
I tend to agree. I think that because you went and got Mark Gronowski and because across the board, particularly the defensive line for Iowa, and because you've got Tim Lester now back into year two, we saw some signs offensively from the Hawkeyes that maybe they can start turning this offense around as Tim Lester continues to get further down the road. That, look, you got the splash that you were looking for. You addressed the quarterback position out of the transfer portal. So with that, in an expanded college football playoff, second year of this 12-team model, it's time to go dancing, right? It's time to get into the college football playoff. I agree. I think that should be the standard that Iowa fans are holding this season to. Now, if it doesn't go according to that plan, does that mean that it just automatically is a failure of a season? No, I don't like subscribing to just the complete world of absolutes. You've heard me say that before, Chris. I don't exist in the complete land of absolutes, but as a starting block, I think the college football playoff, to be one of the top 12 teams and get into that thing, I think with Mark Gronowski coming over, that's perfectly reasonable.
Mm-hmm. Well, in the great words of Giannis Antetokounmpo a couple of years ago, there's no failure in sports. And I was going to ask you that question, if what would you define as a failure? So you beat me to it. But yeah, I would not consider it a failure necessarily. I would just say it's just another season at that point if we don't make the playoffs. I don't think it's I wouldn't say it's not likely. I wouldn't say our chances are great in making the playoffs because there's only a handful of teams. But there is a good chance that we do just because of the offense that we now have. And yes, you need to put points on the board, and we know Iowa has the ability to stop them. I would say this, though, because since our offense is revamped, we lost so many defensive players. Who do you think would be – we talked about underrated players before, and we touched on defense. Who would you say is going to be that player to kind of step up and take a Jay Higgins role or Nick Jackson role? Someone who's really going to take charge of that defense, become one of the best of their position in the country. I would say Max Llewellyn. I'm gonna say my pick is him, just because you hear Kirk Ferentz and company raving about this man, and he came up too, had a couple of clutch plays towards the end of the season, even against I said it before, Nebraska. He had that clutch strip that led to the Drew Stevens game-winning kick. I would say it's him, but there's a number of players on defense that are being talked about highly for Iowa. But I would say Max Llewellyn.
He's a great choice. And in the open spring practice, Max Llewellyn flashed out there for the Hawkeyes. He looked like somebody that's ready to turn that corner. There's a number of different names I think you could turn to. Aaron Graves on the interior feels like somebody that we've seen loads of potential from. And now you're just waiting for that start to finish season where, you finish with above or close to double figure sack numbers and you're a regular pressure artist. So Aaron Graves, I think Max Llewellyn, those two guys up front. Obviously, either Jaden Harrell or Shire makes sense at linebacker. And we'll see if there's, not another name that emerges at backer that we're not thinking about. Kale Kolarek, I think, is a sneaky breakout name for Iowa. He showed some signs that maybe he's a name off the beaten path for the Hawkeyes. Wouldn't be the first name that you would have thought of, but kind of showed some early signs, Chris, that he could be that latest example of an Iowa Hawkeye that joins the program without a bunch of hype around him and just gets better as he goes. But Xavier Wampa, right? I mean, that's another name in the defensive backfield that if Iowa is going to be what Hawkeye fans hope that they can become, then you need that defensive star in the backfield. And Wampa feels like he's the guy that, look, he was the 5-star signee. And we've seen bits and pieces of good play at times, great play. I think back to that first ever appearance for Xavier Wampa in the bowl game versus Kentucky. Boom, pick 6, right? So we've seen some of those flashes of brilliance. And now maybe this is the season where you can put it all together.
Mm-hmm. Look what Seth Shepard said. I'm assuming his pick is going to be Zach Lubmer, which that's a sneaky underrated pick because we named about 7-8 guys and he was not one of them. That's a sneaky good pick. I didn't think of that, but he got a point right there. But he also said that he has questions on quarterback or cornerback, which leads me to my next question is, in your opinion, out of all the positions on Iowa football, offense, defense, and special teams, which position do you think is going to be the most critical position to the success of the season? Which one do you think it is?
If you give me just those positions or
just
across
any
the board?
Offense, defense, or special teams, any position. I'm assuming it's not going to be special teams. We're always elite. But.
Maybe it's too low-hanging fruit to pick quarterback, but I think Gronowski is going to have a lot to say with what the success or failure of this season ultimately looks like. What is the ultimate ceiling? What's the floor? So quarterback, right? You think that you've found the guy in Mark Gronowski that can be the best trigger man, the best signal caller in some time. So I would probably start there. And look, it's always, I think, reasonable and easy to say offensive line, defensive line. Gronowski's only going to be as good as the group that's in front of him. But the group that's in front of him, theoretically, right, you got quite a bit of experience coming back from some of those guys up front. I know you're losing a couple of key cogs and Mason Richmond and Connor Colby, but you're also getting back quite a bit of experience up front. So I guess I would start quarterback, which I wouldn't have any problem if you turn around and said, no, it's offensive line or it's defensive line.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to turn it back to the defense again because I think Mark Gronowski at his maybe 70% play, obviously 100, 70, 60% is probably going to be the max of what we saw out of Cade McNamara and Deacon Hill. So I do expect a lot out of him considering what he's done at South Dakota State, being a 2-time champion over there in his conference. I'm going to say it's got to be the DBs, the defensive backs on defense, just because you look at Iowa's defensive play last year, we weren't a bottom defensive team. We were still an above average defensive team nonetheless, but Iowa's got used to the fans and the fans, players, everybody has gotten used to Iowa being a top 10 defense every single year, that when we're not a top 10 defense, when we're a top 30 defense, which is still elite, top 40 defense, it's like the world's falling apart. And I would say a critical part of why Iowa fell defensively was just because of the plays of the DBs. You know, they did underperform. I'm not here to bash them, but they did underperform. It's not a secret, and I'm sure guys like Xavier Nwampa and TJ Hall know they need to step up. You know, work hard this offseason, and they're going to come back stronger. You also a sneaky other pick that we did not say earlier as well, but I seen some about it the other day, who could even be on draft boards come 2026 is Kobe Entringer. I'm sorry if I said his name wrong, but he as well. I know he filled in a little bit last year. He wasn't a consistent player, but he showed flashes. And now with John Nestor gone, that opens the door for him to come in and gain a full-time role. And I've seen some things where he could have a breakout season. So if you got him, TJ Hall, and Xavier Nwampa all controlling the passing field, I think that'll go a long way to defensive success, considering that Iowa is pretty good every single year at stopping the run, no matter who we lose on defense.
Defensive backfield is going to be massive, and Iowa needs to be better at corner. They need to be better just collectively, cash, safety, across the board of the defensive backfield. We need to see those doughboys that we're accustomed to from Iowa. Seth chimes in. Entringer is awesome. He has tons of snaps and was high with his grade on Pro Football Focus. Howard says, that defensive backfield is the group that Howard's looking at to say, okay, what is it going to look like this season? Deshaun Lee, TJ Hall, can those two guys, how big a steps forward can each of those two take? I think when you and I started Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live out a couple of months ago, one of the first position groups we talked about was corner. And we said, if one of those two guys, if you could just get either TJ Hall or Deshaun Lee to really turn the corner and morph into one of those starring type defensive backs that you've had in recent years with Riley Moss and obviously with Cooper DeJean. And those are, I understand, a high bar, but if you can get one guy like that in the defensive backfield, that would totally change the complexion of what the ceiling, what the expectations for this Iowa defense could be. So, yeah, if you're talking position groups, I think it's easy to point offensive, defensive line. Gronowski, the quarterback, needs to be the star-studded quarterback transfer portal addition that you think he is. But then beyond that, sure, the defensive backfield, Chris, I think has to be better.
Mm-hmm. Of course it does. And I think about, too, as now I'm just thinking about this, how do you think now I'm turning it to the offense, the running back position, we're losing such a prominent running back, and you can make the case Caleb Johnson was the best running back Iowa football has ever had. He's well up there. He's definitely top 2, if not number 1. And he's going to kill in the NFL, getting handoffs from Aaron Rodgers and behind that Steelers O-line and Mike Tomlin. But now you got 2 running backs that we felt good about. If Caleb Johnson went down, we felt good about in Jazz Patterson and I'm blanking on his name. He's
Kamari Moulton.
Kamari Moulton. Sorry, I was thinking of the guy that transferred to Kansas for some reason. But yeah, those two. Kamari Moulton was, because don't forget, Kamari Moulton was a starter week 1 last season. When Caleb had his suspension, and he played pretty good in that Illinois State first half, and we were expecting him to break out, but Caleb Johnson had a monster season. He took over. Now it's Kamari Moulton's time to shine, and you got Jazz Patterson. I'm seeing stuff on the internet where it's kind of going to be a running back by committee backfield, and I think that's more than fair. But I think now that we have a quarterback that could throw the ball downfield, I feel like in order to get the pass game going, the run game has to be going as well. It can't just be the DBs playing back and everyone playing back. They gotta be in the mix of playing forward or back. You got to keep them on their toes.
Theoretically, if that pass game is improved with Gronowski, and if this wide receiver group is just better, top to bottom, and more explosive than the running game, I'm not saying that you've got Caleb Johnson running around back there carrying the football for you, however many times he carried it a season ago. But theoretically, there should be some lanes in the ground game just by virtue of the respect that you have to pay to Gronowski's feet, right? The quarterback run game and hopefully what Iowa can do through the air. We shared the link in there a couple of times in the chat. So if you're right in there in the chat, the StreamYard link, you can jump in and share some of your thoughts with us tonight. So we've got our Monday, we got our Thursday show now, and every Monday and Thursday, 6 o'clock right here, Iowa at the Voice of College Football. We're talking Iowa football, but really just Hawkeye athletics. And if you want to jump in here and chime in with us, that's the link to do so, and we'll take it from backstage right to the front of the line. And any questions or concerns that you have about Hawkeye football, we'd love to get into the mix on those. I think running back's going to be pretty good, Chris. I really do. I think that, look, you don't have Caleb Johnson, and Caleb Johnson was an all-time talent for the Iowa Hawkeyes. I don't think it's any kind of lip service that you've got Mike Tomlin saying the types of things about Caleb Johnson that Mike Tomlin is saying. He knows what professional looks like, and he's seeing a lot of that from Caleb Johnson, and he saw it when he flipped on the tape. So I don't want to diminish what you're losing in Caleb Johnson. That's a superstar, but based on what was going on in the Iowa Open practice, I think Kamari Moulton, to me, appeared to be the one that was a couple of steps in front at that point. And with the guys that are blocking in front of him, and hopefully an improved passing game, I think you're going to be okay with Moulton back there and with Patterson back there. And as Taylor Hink chimed in, Nathan McNeil heard some good things about him. He had a couple of nice runs at the Iowa Open practice. So I think the Hawkeyes are okay in the backfield. Do they have Caleb Johnson? No, I'm not saying they have Caleb Johnson today, but I think if everything else is what we hope it can be, then you're going to be just fine in the backfield.
Mm-hmm. Did you see what Aaron Rodgers said about Caleb Johnson the other day?
I did see it. Was that a real quote? Because I saw something circulating on social media, and I have to vet things 2 or 3 times before I know if it's actually fact or fiction.
Yeah, let's search that up again. For those who don't know, Aaron Rodgers supposedly said that Caleb Johnson was the best running back he's ever handed the ball off to. And that is as much as I love to hear it about Caleb, which he has the pedigree from college football to have that title, I guess, but he hasn't played a snap in the NFL. Mind you, he only practiced with Aaron Rodgers not even 5 times. It hasn't even been 5 times yet. So don't know if that quote is real. We're running
with it.
Yeah, we're gonna
whether it's real or not, we're running with it, dang it.
For Caleb's sake. And I'll say this too, for my fantasy football guys in here, because I'm a big fantasy football guy. Go get Caleb Johnson. I promise you, he's gonna be one of those breakout rookies. Because Jalen Warren, 5'8", he's a skill back, but he's not a power back. Now, when you got Caleb Johnson, who's 6'1", bigger than the average running back, 220, 230, maybe 240 in muscle. I don't know how much muscle he's gained this offseason. That's a big dude. Who do you think the ball's going to go to at the goal line when they're 2 yards, 1 yard out? Are they going to give it to the small dude, or are they give it to the big dude who can power through those linemen? I'm telling you now, Caleb Johnson is going to be one of those highly sought after running backs late in the round. I'm drafting him. I've done about 4 or 5 fantasy leagues already, and I've drafted him every single one, almost every one. Just some people stole him off me, but yeah, Dan Quinja. I want to take
Buckeye Steve in the house. Steve, what's up, man? Opposing fans always welcome here to hang out with us in Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live, Iowa at the Voice of College Football. Salute to you as well, Steve. He says, go Bucks. And he's taking Judkins for his fantasy pick. Hey, nothing wrong with that.
That's a good pick, man. I think he'll take that starting job over Jerome Ford. Maybe not right away, unless they're smart. They will do it right away. But I think by the end of the season, by midway, he's going to take that starting spot. He should. And Travion Henderson, too, he's going to take that from Ramondre Stevenson in New England. Yeah, but it's going to be a good season. It's a talented running back room, man. So to think Caleb Johnson is highly sought after and is one of the best initial running back classes in draft history is insane. That proves how good Caleb Johnson really is.
Yeah, I think he's got a chance to surprise some folks that thought that the. I find at times there's NFL fans and then there's college football fans and then there's, like many of us, fans of both that consume all the football we possibly can, right? But every once in a while you've got those NFL fans or NFL draft heads that they really don't watch college football for the most part, Chris. And if Caleb Johnson's draft grade says third, fourth round, then he's a third, fourth round talent. And you might be surprised by the player that Caleb Johnson can be. So I'm excited to see what his future will look like with the Pittsburgh Steelers. He keeps that black and gold on, and he's got a great quarterback to start out with Aaron Rodgers.
Yep. Him and Y.A. Black. What a team to go to. Look at them staying in the black and gold. I just found that supposedly Caleb Johnson was working out with Aaron Rodgers ahead of the 2025 draft. And that makes me think, did Aaron Rodgers have some say in, was this way months in advance premeditated? Did he have some say in the Steelers drafting Caleb Johnson? That got me thinking now.
Maybe. Hey, we got Mr. T. Hink, Taylor Hink, hanging out backstage and now
there we go.
Stage.
How's it going, fellas?
Taylor, what's up, man? How we doing?
Oh, just enjoying this fine evening in central Iowa.
Yeah, nothing wrong with that, man. Weather's good. Hanging out in the backyard on the porch.
Yes, I am, man.
You got a
good,
nice
90-degree day here in Iowa. It's feeling good out.
Got a nice breeze going. I see the hair's moving on top. It looks nice outside.
Yes, it is.
T. Hink, it's great to, though we've met virtually, it's great to meet on the call-in show here. What do you think, man? What are your expectations for Iowa this season? That's kind of how we opened. What, as a diehard fan, what is success? What does failure look like for you?
Yeah, the schedule's pretty tough this year. I would like to see 9 to 10 wins, but that may be a little excessive with the schedule. I know there's some good teams on there, Penn State, Oregon. Got to go to Wisconsin. That's always a tough game. I would like to win 9 games this year. I think that'd be a realistic opportunity.
I don't see why not. Obviously it's a new look Big Ten schedule, so it's not a Big Ten West schedule really ever again for Iowa. So you start thinking about the schedule. Albany, obviously your layup game there, and then you go to Iowa State, and they've got back-to-back, so that on the road and with an experienced quarterback could be challenging. UMass, I feel like at Rutgers, you should feel good that you can go to Piscataway and feel like you can comfortably win there. Indiana, they went and found a new quarterback that a bunch of people wanted, so that's a program that suddenly has some juice. Chris, a more difficult home game versus Indiana than years past.
Yeah, you're telling me, man. They shout out. Is it Kirk Cagini? Is that his name? Did I say it right?
Mr. Signetti.
Signetti. Yeah, he got a difficult name to say, but shout out him. I say it all the time, man. A coach really does matter, not just for calling plays and designing plays, but locker room wise. And you can see when Indiana goes from kind of a joke of a team to one of the best in all of college football in 1 year, and the coach is hired at the beginning of the year, and all of a sudden they make this transition, you're going to look at the coach. That's a big hire, man. So shout out to him. He's doing a great job out there. That's going to be a tough game that I will not cover because that's on my birthday. So I will be in the stands enjoying it with my family. And
we won't have you do a broadcast live afterwards with it being your birthday. That could be potentially dangerous. Could be entertaining. It could be potentially dangerous.
I will say now, I'll probably stay away from all cameras. It will be 23 and I will be enjoying myself and my family. We like to celebrate and party hard.
T. Hink, what's the key stretch for you on this schedule? I think, the Indiana at Wisconsin, Penn State stretch looks challenging. It looks like it closes tough for Iowa. You've got Oregon at USC. We'll see, what the Trojans look like. Michigan State was not a great team a year ago. Maybe they're improved, and then you close obviously at Nebraska. But what stands out to you about the schedule that Iowa's going to face?
Yeah, I think the beginning of the schedule actually can help build this success. I think if Iowa can get out to a great start, like maybe go undefeated into the Indiana game. That game probably be on big noon, I think, with being probably they'll be undefeated as well. I think Indiana's schedule is pretty light to start, so I think this stretch at the beginning of the year could set up the year for some good success.
We were kicking it around too, Taylor, that, you know, what are the position groups that we're all watching closely? What about for you? I mean, what position group jumps to mind?
For the defense side of the ball, I think cornerback's the biggest question mark, as well as linebacker. I think linebacker has some serious shoes to fill with Nick Jackson and Jay Higgins leaving. Jaden Harrell and Carson Shire, I think the biggest one is for Carson to stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, I think he's got all the talent in the world to be a good linebacker at Iowa. It's just really his health that's been really what's holding him back. He's a good linebacker at Iowa Falls, close to where I grew up here in central Iowa. So he was a good athlete in high school. So I think those two are the main positions on the defensive side of the ball. And then running back, I think it's going to be a committee with Pharrell Washington. I think he's going to be pretty good out of the backfield with Tim Lester's offense, learning the West Coast offense, and the receiver room will really help him at the running back. And then always quarterback. It's been really gruesome for Iowa in quarterback play. So I think if they can get this one right, I think it can help build the future on the quarterback side of things. So
Where are you from, T?
I am from Story City, Iowa, so that is just about 10 minutes north of Ames. So good old cyclone country is where I grew up.
Be careful out there.
You're close in proximity over here. I'm in Des Moines.
Okay, yeah. I actually live in Ankeny right now, so that ain't too far. So.
Yeah. I work at the Ankeny Buffalo Wild Wings.
Oh, really? It's a good restaurant here in Ankeny.
Yeah. I'll get you on a discount if you come by.
I'll have to come by. I love these live shows. I know I'm a big fan of Corey Bratta from the Hawkeye of the Storm. He's a good guy. I've been listening to him. He grew up in Ames, so he's with one of my fellow Hawkeyes here in Ames. So, but yeah, so football, I'm really excited. Basketball, it's getting up there. I've never been this excited about Iowa basketball since I'm only going to be 24. So Iowa basketball, I think, is on the rise with Ben McCollum. So.
We certainly hope so. I love what they've done. I love what they've done out of the transfer portal. Obviously, getting Bennett Smith was huge, and Alvaro Fulgaris was, just announced last night that he's going to be doing the U20 deal in Spain. So he's a big time get, and McCollum looks like somebody that can really coach. And one thing I like, Taylor, is he wants guys to play defense, which I know Hawkeye fans have been pining for some time.
Oh, yeah, they need to play some defense because that was brutal watching some of those Fran McCaffrey years where they just run up and down the court. And I'm like, by the time half was here, I was like, I just watched a marathon and we still got a half to go. So I was like, I'm glad he emphasized defense. That was one of the things Fran did not teach, I don't think, when he was here at Iowa. So
yeah. If you look at that, Ben McCollum, if anyone's watched Drake last year, or done some research, you know that Ben McCollum, and he brought a lot of those guys over from Drake. I believe it's 7 of those guys. So you got the continuity. You got one of the best point guards in the country in Bennett Sturts. But, man, they are athletic, and they run up and down. They throw oops. There was not a lot of oops in Iowa basketball a couple of years. You know, there's been a lack of athleticism, and I think it killed us on defense and on the boards. But now we got that athleticism, man. It's going to look really fun. It's going to be more what modern basketball should be about, man.
That's right. I think they need to get, one more guard that can come in and compete, and I think we'll be set. I think the center is costing them too much, and I just don't think they have the funds yet right now to afford a true center. So,
yeah, it's going to be interesting to see. You know, I know you've Taylor been a part of a bunch of these shows, all of them, hanging out with us, and so you know that I can get dorky talking the dollars and cents on some of this stuff. It's going to be interesting to see. I'm just curious how much sticking power the NIL Go has, the collective era that we just came out of. Is that now a thing of the past? And so is this basically however much you can allocate to men's basketball is, based on where it feels like we've been to where theoretically, if we're operating with $20.5 million, then I think numbers of what players are getting paid are going to start coming back down to earth, but we'll see what the investment is like for Iowa. I think that they're going to try to be very, very competitive on that front. They obviously have been this offseason, but it's just kind of crazy. We don't know what a lot of these financials look like going forward, but it feels like Iowa's in a better spot on the hardwood than they've been in some time.
Oh, I agree 100%. I think they're in a way better position than they were financial-wise this year than they were last year. I just don't think people really wanted to support the team. I think the fatigue got to all the fans. I think they just checked out.
Just a breath of fresh air sometimes, unfortunately, is needed. And I think Fran was well liked. It just maybe went a little bit too long, which sometimes happens in sports. T. Hink, hey, we appreciate you, man. Thanks for jumping in here, dude.
Yeah, I'll have to jump on here in a couple weeks or next week. I like this stuff, so I'll be in here Mondays and Thursdays watching you all. So
Taylor, thanks, man. We'll look forward to it.
Good to see your face, man. Appreciate you.
T. Hink, how about that?
Yeah. What a guy. What a guy.
And let's welcome Howard to the program. Howard, you are on Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live with Chris and myself. What's up, man?
What's going on? It's really Hawkeye Howard.
Hawkeye Howard, how are you, buddy?
I'm all right. How you guys doing?
Doing great. Doing great. What's on your mind?
Well, as I said before, the other some other podcasts with you, the defense. Last year's run defense really gutted me. It's just like the Michigan State game and the UCLA game just was unnecessary.
Mm-hmm. I agree.
Those two games were just, what are we doing? And as I said before, you got to call out Phil. I'm dating myself. You got to call out Phil. I mean, he's evidently getting little slack in his old age or something. I mean, you got to get out there and mess around or something. I don't know what's gonna do, but you got to put a fire in these guys and the backfield. They're coming. They're young. How's that? This year be another year improvement. That's all I can say.
Howard, maybe Phil Parker and company can surprise you and surprise me. I mean, probably not going to totally surprise Hawkeye fans to see good defense, but I don't think anything you're saying is unfair in the sense that, look, Iowa lost a couple of games last season that they should not have lost. They should not have lost at Michigan State. They should not have lost that game at UCLA, and it unfortunately did play out that way, in part because of the inability to stop the run and some defensive shortcomings. So for as many great seasons and great moments, and certainly of late over the last 5-10 years for the Hawkeyes, those Phil Parker defenses have had stars, Howard.
Yes.
And they've been great nationally in terms of run defense, total defense, passing defense, interceptions, all those kinds of things, right? I mean, we could go up and down the list of defensive categories that they were great in and have made a habit of being great in. Last year, unfortunately, at times, yes, it took a step back in the wrong direction. I'm sure that Phil Parker is well aware of that, and hopefully the Jaden Harrells, the Carson Shires, and other names, I'm thinking linebackers here, when we're talking run defense, hopefully those guys can get Iowa back to what you and I and everybody's accustomed to watching.
If we had the defense, I'm hoping this offense is better because, boy, they got some studs on that offensive line. And the only thing I'm worried about, guys, is this quarterback coming in. Are we going to have another one of those, he's a good quarterback. We're going to do this, and he just flops.
I don't think that'll happen. His resume speaks for itself. All we could do is go off the numbers that he's put up at this point. We haven't seen him play much, but when it's one thing when you win a championship once. It's another thing when you do it twice. When you do it twice, you prove that it's not a fluke. And
Yeah.
he's thrown for 20 touchdowns, I believe, every single year he was there. He's like the amount of yards, 2,000 yards. I can't even name the numbers because they're honestly kind of absurd to me in terms of Iowa quarterback history. If a quarterback put up those numbers at Iowa, we might have won a national championship. So
Oh yeah.
I'm
Now,
not
I
saying,
did do some research on him, and I
yeah,
watched some of his old games.
To your
yeah,
point,
I
Hawkeye
don't wanna
Howard,
say that. Yeah,
I think Gronowski, it's pivotal that
Mhm.
he's what you and I and everybody hopes that he can be. Because
Mhm.
look, you're coming off the Cade McNamara, and I like Cade. You're not going to hear me say bad things about Cade McNamara outside of just the play itself for Cade McNamara. It was underwhelming with Cade McNamara. It was not as delivered, at least what it was billed to be was not
Mhm.
what was delivered to Hawkeye fans. So that given, the way that played out and given the, can I just say recruiting failures from the high school ranks for Iowa, the development failures for
Oh
Iowa
yeah.
at quarterback. I mean, with all of that working in conjunction with itself, Hawkeye Howard, they need Gronowski to be a hit because look,
Yeah.
now we're in this revenue share era and guys are going to go, yes, where they get paid, but they're going to go where they get paid and still where they can be developed to be the best version of themselves. And Iowa needs Gronowski to prove that Tim Lester can be that guy for them and for other quarterbacks.
I think last year's offense wasn't bad. It was better than the previous years.
Mhm.
And so, I mean, but next question is: if you guys had a home game to go to, what home game would you go to?
I will take the question on that one first because I will be at majority of these home games. Me personally, I will say the home game I am most looking forward to. And by the way, I'm going to cover most of these. I think I might cover all these home games. So this will be fun for me. I think the home game I'm most looking forward to has to be Oregon. Just because one, I never would have thought we would have played them. I haven't seen them in person. I've seen all the other schools. I haven't seen them. But also they were kind of one of the best teams, technically record-wise, the best team in college football last year. I know they lost a lot of guys to the draft, but it's a new face to the conference, and it's a new face that Iowa fans get to see because we've seen Indiana many times, we've seen Penn State. Nobody will forget what happened in 2022, I believe that year was, or 2023. Someone could fact check me on that. I know I was not here for that.
Nico, baby, look out late in the night.
Yeah, we see Minnesota, we see Michigan State, but we have not seen Oregon at home. We have not seen Ducks come to our place, and I want to see that mascot in
Oh yes,
person.
we have.
Yeah, we have.
The Ducks have been to Iowa before, back in the Hayden Fry area.
Oh, this was a long time ago. Yeah, that was
Yeah, I'm
Not in
showing my
Chris's
age.
life. He's
yeah.
this
This
that
was,
doesn't exist, Howard.
yeah. I was not on this planet when that happened.
I was probably your age. Well, no, I was younger than you probably. I was in
Yeah,
my
I'm
teens
22.
then.
I'm 22.
But yeah,
Howard,
Oregon is in November, and I hope it's cold. I
yeah,
hope
that's
it's
what everybody wants,
cold.
right?
It's gonna be
Hawkeye
cold.
fans want it to be frosty when those West Coast teams come in.
Oh yeah,
Oregon would be a ton of fun, and I think that's a great one. In part because look, you got the West Coast and the newness thing. They haven't been to Iowa City in a long, long time, Howard, and it's going to be, we hope, cold and all those sorts of things. But for me, it's Penn State, middle of October. I think that's
yeah.
the best game. If I could only go to one, even with the uniqueness in a sense of this Iowa Oregon thing beginning up and kind of getting reinstalled here, I think the best home game is Penn State. You had a great moment versus those guys recently inside Kinnick Stadium, so that's the
We
one for
got
me.
some
And Penn
revenge on
State,
them to do too.
Mhm.
do what now?
We got some revenge on them where they've been hammering us pretty hard when we go over there last year. And we got some revenge to do on Penn State.
Yeah, the whiteout was not a lot of fun, Howard.
No, it was not.
Let me
So
ask you this, Josh. Let me ask you this: is Penn State, would you say that's the most key matchup of the year? Just knowing how they are and considering it's the middle of the schedule.
Yeah, if I only get one, that's probably the game because I think it's a compass game to how good the Hawkeyes can truly be, in part because Drew Aller and Penn State, they're viewed right now, and it's the offseason, and things can change dramatically between now and then. But Penn State's getting regarded like they're a national championship contender.
Hawkeye Howard, what do you think? What would you say is that one key game for Iowa that they really have to lock in on and really try to get a win?
I'm going to say this: the national championship game has to go through Iowa. It either has to be through, Oregon, with Oregon or Penn State. They got to beat Iowa at Iowa, and
That's pretty fun.
and that's my opinion. I don't like the times they were putting that Oregon game. I hope it's a primetime game at night under the lights. Wouldn't that be sweet?
Yeah, it'd be a lot of fun.
Yeah.
What about for you, Howard?
It's an 8-hour drive for me.
What about for you? Are you going to any of these games? Are you trying to pick one?
Yeah, I'm going to go to at least one game because it's an 8-hour drive, and I'm in southern Missouri.
Okay.
Down south.
I'm ducking all these tornadoes around here. So
is Josh in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
I'm in Springfield. So
well, stay safe over there, Howard. It's you know how it is. We're not out of the complete neck of the woods here.
No, we're not out of it yet. No, by a long shot.
Yeah.
But anyway, it's an 8-hour drive for me from here to there. Glad I got family up there. You know, I grew up in Iowa. And once you're a Hawkeye, you're always a Hawkeye, you know?
That's right.
Is
always a Hawk, baby.
Is Iowa City's Kinnick Stadium the closest Big Ten school to you?
Yeah, I actually have to go through Columbia to get there.
Awesome.
Yeah. Howard, hey, we got some other folks that want to jump in here, but thanks for jumping in.
Well, I'll let you go. Sorry about that.
No. Howard, you're fine, man. We appreciate it, and we look forward to seeing you every single time in here, man.
All right. Thank you.
Also, before you go, oh, man. He'll probably hear this. Oh,
you want to ask Howard one more thing? He's right there. Howard, you still there?
Yeah.
All right. I probably appreciate you just because I was in the main Hawkeye show the other day, and I saw in the comment section you were promoting our call-in show on your own. I saw that. I didn't respond to the comment, but I wanted to tell you I appreciate that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're all one umbrella as well as this. I was trying to get more people in here.
Yeah, this might be the first time.
Appreciate it, Howard.
If we get one more viewer, it's the first time we hit 100 since the first show. So I'm sure you're.
Hey, there it is.
There it is. There's your contributions right there.
Baby.
You played a part in that.
All right. You guys have a great day. I'll call in next week if you have it.
Yep.
Absolutely. We look forward to it. See you, Howard.
Appreciate
See you later.
Hawkeye Howard, ladies and gentlemen. Hawkeye Howard. How about that?
What a guy.
Give him a Pat McAfee clap right there. All right, we got James hanging on.
James,
what's up, man?
How you guys doing? This is my first time on the show. I obviously commented the one time a long time ago. I do listen. I don't know if you guys know Corey, but I've been on Corey's show forever. So like,
awesome, yeah.
Me and him have been.
Corey's great.
Forever, so, yeah,
it's nice that you made your way over here.
Yeah, but I was gonna say my biggest game, to be honest with you, and I know this is gonna sound crazy because it's not a conference game. To me, it's always Iowa State 1-2. How good Iowa State is this year? I feel like if you win that game, you can get yourself in the right direction. If that makes sense. Right, like
Sure.
that game could pivot the direction of the season, if that makes sense, right? Like and obviously it's not gonna be easy. They're a really good team, but like if you lose that game, it could change your direction. It could change your season in one direction, then the
James,
other.
I don't have the numbers in front of me, and at some point I'll be better researched than on this Thursday in early June. But the years where Iowa has lost that Cyhawk game under Kirk Ferentz have not been great seasons typically. Yeah. And obviously all of the pretty good ones and sometimes great ones have basically coincided with, hey, you beat Iowa State. So to that point, James, I think you're right on the money. I mean, that's a big early game for them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it helps them a little bit playing Albany in the fact that you'd like to play a little bit tougher competition because of, you need that test, I feel like, to play Iowa State, but also hopefully, knock on wood, you stay a little bit healthier because you're playing a team where your starters might not have to play the whole game as well, right? And they have, Kansas State in week 0, right? And they're going to Dublin. You never know how that could treat them, right? And all that. I'm not wishing injuries at anybody, obviously, but just saying, they could be banged up a little bit too, a little bit more sore than we are because they have 2 games before we play one. Or they have 2 games before we play our second, if that makes sense.
Yeah. I will say, I think every year, no matter the schedule, it's true, but it's not in a sense. But Iowa State is always the biggest game of the year.
Yeah.
That's true, and it's not. So and especially considering what they did last year, they were a good football team. So
No, for
if we're
sure.
able to snatch an early key win off them, it's key. It's key regardless if they're good or bad. It's a key win. But knowing that they're good, it makes it an extra key to hone in and actually show people it's a Hawkeye State, especially when the other team lining up across from you, the in-state rival, is actually playing quality football. Especially it's on Fox. They got the Fox crew coming too. So for anyone that's close to Iowa City to make it to that game, make sure you get here extra early because you want to be on TV. If you want to be on here, you definitely want to be on Fox Sports.
Big noon kick, baby. Come on.
Yeah, no, but I'm just saying more for me, it's more the direction it can go. And I know it's always big, but like I feel like the game always can change your direction one or the other. And like it doesn't matter conference wise. If you lose the game, it doesn't matter conference wise, but I feel like it's a momentum shift if that makes sense, right? Like it's momentum builder. But
it's kind of crazy, as you mentioned, that they have that early August 23rd date versus Kansas State, which James, just looking at it for the Big 12, I mean, that's a big game in that conference right out of the chute.
And it's also in Dublin, so you have all the travel and all that thing too, which makes it even more rough and that stuff too, you know, for them, like traveling all the way out to Dublin and then you got to travel home and play the next week. You don't even get a bye week, right? You got to travel home and then you still play the next week.
Granted, you get to play South Dakota, so that should help a little bit.
Yeah, but I mean, you're still traveling there, traveling back, you know.
The jet lag, it's not going to be a ton of fun.
Yeah.
But
what about, James, for you? If you get one home game this year for the Hawkeyes, which one are you?
Well, see, me and my friends have already picked out the game we're going to. It's not the greatest one because, you know, some of my friends don't have the greatest money situation, you know, so we try to get the cheaper ones you can get to, you know. So you just try to at least see your team play in that aspect. But for me, obviously, it'd be Oregon too. That'd be a cool one just because you never get to see them play. And at least in Iowa City, right? And like I wasn't there when I wasn't born when Hayden was there either, right? So I was really, really young. I was like 1 or 2 when Hayden was like the coach, right? So I don't remember anything from Hayden Fry era, right? So for me, never really get to see Oregon. You watch them play all the time, but never as a Big Ten team against your favorite team makes it more like that aspect is cool.
I don't know how many people care about this part of it. Some people, you know, get fired up about the uniform combinations, but Iowa, Oregon has a chance to be, you know, a great uniform combination game. Massive clash between those two.
One thing I want to My bad. One thing I want to say about Mark Gronowski is I'm from the area of an MVC team in the state of Iowa, and you and I am in that area. So I just want to say one thing about Gronowski is watching him play over the last 4 years, you know, against you and I, because they pretty much played you and I every year, you know. I watch a lot of you and I, obviously, because I'm from close to the area. He's a really good quarterback, and I think it's different than Cade, like you said, in the fact of, one, his shoulders hurt, not his knee, right? So different in that aspect. Like, his lower body's still functioning, but he's still doing stuff with his lower body. He's not really wasn't able to move the lower body. The lower body always able to function. The shoulder does hurt you a little bit. It scares you a little bit, but I think a shoulder is easier to recover from than a knee injury. You know what I mean? Like, knees are hard to recover from.
And
especially a serious one too, because Kate had the ACL tear. Those are damn hard to come back from, especially in contact sport like football. And
Gronowski just seems he seems like such a good fit for Iowa because he just seems tough, right? So as long as those, you know, knees and legs are in great shape, obviously we want the shoulder in good shape so he can, you know, exploit the deep ball and, you know, have every throw in the arsenal. But if the feet, if the legs, if the knees are in good shape, then even just the dual threat, what he can add for Iowa there, Chris, is going to be a different component for the Hawkeyes offensively.
100%. Yeah. I mean, you look at, I talked about it on even the very first show. We talked about, Mark Gronowski. And like the one thing that stood out to me was when he was in the red zone, just his ability to really read. The amount of times he would throw a pass fake and then end up running because he created some space off the pass fake, or the amount of times he would kind of run right in front of the line of scrimmage, do a little dump off pass. Next thing you know, it goes for 10 yards. Just his ability to read, stay patient, even when he's scrambling, just to stay patient and see his intelligence on display. And not even just 1 or 2 plays, it was multiple plays all throughout the highlight reel. That is. And I know only like highlight reels are one thing. You haven't seen, you know, the flaws and the flukes, which every player has, but just the highlight reel and just seeing his intelligence on display and seeing his reading ability is something that I personally, no offense to Deacon Hill, Caden McNamara, and anybody else here, but I haven't seen that since I started watching Hawkeye football a few years back. it's going to be exciting. And I think Hawkeye fans are really going to see how intelligent this man is, especially with in between 10 to 5 yards in the red zone. I think he's a very intelligent guy on top of his skill set and be able to scramble. The use that he's tough. He's thrown a couple shoulders in players. He's not afraid to get in there and take a hit or two to get in the end zone.
Yeah, for sure. And one thing weird, first off, the whole defense kind of scares me a little bit. The fact that the defensive line depth kind of scares me. The depth behind the starters. I think the starters are good, but a lot of times they like to run a lot of guys out there, right? Kevin Bell's always like to run a lot of guys out there, right? Like get the guys to rest. I don't know if they can really do that this year with what they have behind those guys. It didn't get as much rest as those guys to get as the season goes on. That scares me a little bit. Linebacker, obviously, the two and funny story. I don't know if y'all really care about my story, this and that, but I coached Jay Montgomery's cousin in basketball in high school.
Nice.
So Jay Montgomery kind of has a soft spot in my heart a little bit for him. I want to see him play a little bit just because he has a soft spot in my heart coaching his cousin who plays football now at Indiana State, which is also another cool story. But that's another cool story. And then corner, I think is kind of scary with behind the two, obviously, Deshaun Lee, TJ Hall. And what is TJ Hall going to look like? Because he hasn't been – he has up and downs. He's looked really bad at some points, but he's also showing a little bit of flashes. And I think Saheed Barrows is a big piece we haven't talked. I don't know if you guys talk about him a lot, but Saheed Barrows, the transfer from South Dakota, could be a big fit in that room to help you with him and Jalen Watson behind him. I think is interesting. But safety, I feel like is the most comfortable position in the defensive room.
Yeah, and I really like what Kale Kolyrik did again at the open practice. I try not to get too high and mighty or too down and out over what you see from one open practice, right? But he did do some impressive stuff, and given Iowa's track record with players that are, if you want to say, off the beaten path, or they weren't
he definitely was, for sure.
Recruit James coming in, that caught my attention.
Yeah, and it's also interesting to see because Jaden Harrell was a guy who waited his turn. Iowa has those guys. Even with the year of transfer portals, like Jay Higgins, same way. Waited his. I'm not comparing Jaden to Jay at all. That's not what I'm saying. But I'm saying the fact of they both waited their turn, right? Jaden waited his turn. Carson waited his turn. Jaden Montgomery could have went somewhere. He decided not to go somewhere, right? These guys are waiting their turn at linebacker, and I feel like that's what made Jay so good was he waited his turn, but he learned from one of the greats in Jack Campbell, right? And obviously Jay was really good too. So maybe them two learning from Jay and even Nick Jackson the last 2 years, helping have those two veterans in there could maybe make them a better players at linebacker.
One of the impressive things, James, and I've said this on this show before, is the retention for Iowa. I think is as good as anybody nationally, retaining their top players, guys that have produced in the program before, and then with the instance of some of the players you're talking about there, the retention of players that haven't cracked the rotation yet.
And I want to say too, I like you shouting out Saheed Barrows just because when we talk about transfers, he came from a smaller school. He's not the guy that comes to mind right away, but it makes me realize kind of how many guys can really step in and play, and just how many it's not. We don't have, at least looking at it right now, we don't have, besides the potential of Xavier Nwankpa at his best, we don't have really a top DB in the country, but there's so many guys that come in and actually play great defense and make themselves known. We almost forget how deep Iowa is, even though it's a little scary. They're pretty deep.
Yeah, for sure. And even at wide receiver, I feel like they're deeper at wide receiver than they've been in a long time, right? With Vander Z, Seth Anderson, Jacob Gill, even bringing in Sam Phillips, right? And it's just weird to see. You don't see this a lot of times from Iowa where you feel. I'm not saying I feel comfortable at wide receiver because it still scares me. It hasn't been a great position, but I feel better that we have more options, if that makes sense.
It is very encouraging, Chris, that there's more guys out there at pass catcher that can go make some plays.
Yeah, I truly think, man, Reese Vanderzee really has the potential to go pro. I mean, I saw it in the first game when he gets to Illinois State. He had 2 touchdowns as a rookie, 6'4", and just athletic. His high school coach called him a freak athlete. And that's for a reason. You saw his potential on display. Now you got a quarterback that could throw him the football short yard and long. Like I said it the very first episode. I'm very high on Reese Vanderzee. I think he's really going to prove that he's one of the best up-and-coming talents, and not just the Big Ten, but all of college football.
Yeah,
gotta be healthy, and he's got to show that he can do it consistently for a season. But, I think, James, that's a possibility.
Yeah, and then a couple more things. I'm gonna go to basketball side, both men and women, real quick.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know it's a football show, but I haven't really got to talk to you guys, so it's kind of interesting to see your guys' opinions on kind of things. And one thing that does scare me with, and I think Ben McCollum's a great coach, is not and I think big won't be an issue in non-conference, but when Purdue always has 7+ foot guys. Some of the teams have 7+ foot guys, and you're running out 6'9" full guys. As much as I think full guys is good, running out 6'9" big against the 7-footers, I don't know how that's gonna play. That scares me a little bit, but I trust him. If there's any coach I trust, is him to figure out how it works. But also does scare you a little bit because size doesn't matter more obviously in basketball than it does in any other sport, right? So
Yeah, I think down the road you'd like to have that proven center, and it just sounds like reading the tea leaves from the reporters out there that are really on the forefront for Iowa on the recruiting side, that basically the price, right, for maybe a 5 out there, the asking price just wasn't something that the Hawkeyes were really comfortable with. I think Alvaro Fulgaris is a really good piece for you, probably more of that stretch 4 type guy. We'll see about Manyao, how much he can really bang in the Big Ten. I think it's a reasonable concern, but I'm hopeful that Ben McCollum's commitment to defense and on the backboards, that maybe you can make up some of that difference, even James minus what is probably that traditional center.
Well, the one thing that scares me, I don't know if you remember Manuel saying this in the March Madness, but he said the physicality of like playing Missouri and them teams kind of got to him a little bit, and that scared me a little bit from him saying that, because it's like now you got to play a Big Ten center every night when you're in the Big Ten, and it's like it's definitely going to be as physical, if not more physical than that, right? And so if the physicality was getting to you there, hopefully maybe he builds a little bit of muscle that could change it too. But that did scare me a little bit when he said that, and then realizing he was going to Iowa after that, I was like, that's kind of not something you want to hear your big man say,
No,
But,
yeah. I would agree. That is not probably not what you're looking for, but maybe, I mean, every once in a while, an athlete is just being honest, right? And hopefully it's a case of that it's, look, that was a step up for me. And now he's going to see it on a regular basis, James. So maybe he'll adjust as he sees it more often.
It also could have been a I know where I need to be kind of thing too. Maybe that's what he meant too. It's like I know I need to be to this point to be as, like, he didn't say it that way, but in his head he could have been I know where I need to be as physical as these guys. Or I know I need to match that physicality level to get to that level. And on the women's side, before I get off on the women's side, just what they've done is amazing recruiting wise. Obviously, Addie Deal, I think, is somebody a lot of people are talking about but aren't talking about enough. I think getting her was amazing. Because any sport really, Iowa doesn't recruit California like that, right? So it's tough for us to get anybody from the state of California, right? And when you do, and then obviously when you put her on there too, like if she even have her in our top 4 is like something that you don't ever think Iowa would be, right? Like whether she lands Iowa or not, right? Like you don't ever feel like a 5-star of any sport, football, basketball, women's basketball, that you would have been in the running. And thank you, Caitlin Clark, we are, but like you didn't think you would be in that point when you were growing up as a child.
I'm so happy for Hawkeye fans. It is awesome to watch the transformation that seems to be happening with women's basketball. And you hope that, men's basketball and football, this revenue share era, maybe it can cut some corners for you or level the playing field a little bit. And we can see some of these types of things start happening for Hawkeye football too. But just as it pertains to women's basketball, look, in case you all missed it, McKenna Velichko today included Iowa among her top 4. She's one of the top wings in the 2026 class, a 5-star, number 6 overall recruit, according to everybody. ESPN, On3, 24/7 Sports. And the Hawkeyes, they're right there in this recruitment. And oh, by the way, she has announced her official visit as well, late August to Iowa. She unofficially visited last fall, but she's coming back this August to Iowa City. So no, you're right, James. It's fun to see the momentum that Hawkeye women's basketball has. Now you got to go close, right? You closed with Addie Deal. You closed before that with Caitlin Clark, but it sounds like they've got a very real chance for McKenna Velichko to be a Hawkeye, and now you just got to go get it done.
They've had more of a chance than I think you thought they would have. Like when you first heard of her about being 5-star, I think they have more of a chance now than you ever thought they would have, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no doubt. I think that obviously we look at Caitlin Clark and what she's done, and no doubt she transcended the program. But you got to think too, you haven't seen when the coaching change happens, especially a coach with the likes of Lisa Bluter, a lot of players tend to leave. But think about all the players that stayed, and even Addie Deal after Lisa retired. Addie Deal, the 5-star that could have gone anywhere she wanted, still decided to play for Iowa because of Jan Jensen and that notoriety that she has. And that's why we're getting these 5-stars looking at Iowa. Now you can say we're a premier program now because we're able to compete for these 5-stars. And when you see, like I said, coaching changes, 5-stars stay, only one person so far is transferred in Leah Guy, and only one person transferred out, but everyone is staying. Everyone's fully committed. That's a commitment to Jan Jensen and the rest of the staff, what she's done, and it transcend the fan base too, because obviously when you play a sport, you want to play in front of fans. That's a big thing. And when Iowa's selling out every single game, and Jan Jensen, with her coaching notoriety, is able to put the proof on the wall and say, look at what you could play in front of, as well as play for us. That's why these 5-stars are coming.
It recruits itself, and then obviously what Clark has morphed into is, paying dividends for the program. Hey, James, thanks for jumping in here, man. We look forward to you being a regular.
I was gonna say one more thing. Obviously, I hope we have a good football year, obviously, but the Iowa State game is going to be a bittersweet one for me because I was talking about coaching earlier. I coach a kid now that plays football. He transferred to play football at Iowa State now, so it's going to be bittersweet for me on win or loss because it's like I want to see him succeed, but also I don't ever want Iowa to lose, right? So I'll text him that before the season obviously starts, but it's appreciated to have you guys on and have you support Iowa. It's important to have people support Iowa and just be able to have other people think other people's thoughts, right? See what other people think about the program because you might be way off. Like I might be way off from what other people think, but sometimes we think differently, and that's a good thing too.
Hey, it's good to have, really, and I won't speak entirely for you, Chris, but I think I can speak a little bit for you. We want this to be a community for Hawkeye fans, and we want you guys to feel welcome here to agree, disagree, communicate, and for the most part, just have fun together. So I appreciate you saying that, James, and thanks for jumping in, man.
Yep, enjoy your night.
See you, buddy.
James.
You too. We have gotten to where we're approaching the end of the runway here. But just something else that happened today that I thought was interesting. So they had another congressional college sports hearing, and out of the SEC, William King said today that he told lawmakers at this college sports congressional hearing, officials are planning to create a database of athlete earnings that'll be accessible to players, schools, and agents, and it won't divulge specific details of individual contracts. So, for instance, you wouldn't know if you jumped in what Mark Gronowski is getting paid individually. But under this proposal that William King and others are kind of putting together out there, basically, for instance, the University of Iowa would be able to look at this database, Chris, and say, okay, here's kind of the going rate for a quarterback, and here's the going rate for a left tackle, so on and so forth. So that I thought was an interesting development today from the college sports congressional hearing. That's my one thing out the door.
Yeah, that is a very interesting update on the whole situation. I think now that obviously we're not going to be able to see individuals, but like you said, you're going to be able to see a group. I just think, oh man, it's becoming more and more like pro football. I'm just thinking about, and I might be thinking too negative on the situation, but I'm thinking if there is a high level receiver or quarterback and they're going to look at the average earnings and see an average quarterback makes $5 million, the next thing you know, they're going to want to up the chart. Hey, I played my butt off. Maybe I want to earn 6 or 7 million. Next thing you know, the average is going to go up to 7 million. Hey, maybe I'm one of the best quarterbacks in the country. I should be able to get a little more than that. I think it's just going to become a pay raise thing. It's like what the NFL does. Every top player at their position, and rightfully so, whatever the max is, they say, hey, I want to be the top. I want to be the top paid player. And if you don't make me the top paid player, I'm either going to hold out or I'm going to hold out until you give me a contract or look somewhere else.
You do hear some scuttlebutt that multi-year contracts are more and more a thing, which I think is going to be good news for college athletics, and more that if you break out of a contract, guess what? There's going to be repercussions for that. So the University of Iowa, just for Hawkeye fans, I think is going to be protected from, say, a Caden Proctor situation down the road. And, that's just one example of, a situation gone horribly wrong. And probably a better example would be, say, Mark Gronowski is not a one-year rental. He's got a couple of seasons. He comes in, has a great season, but you inked him for 2. He can't just turn around and leave without some form of, paying it back to the university, so to speak. Anything, great show. Anything before we get out of here, Chris?
Yes. I told you before, this was 20 seconds before we hopped on. I can't find it anymore, but here it is. Connor Hellebuich, I don't know his name, but NHL goalie, first goalie in 10 years to win regular season MVP award. So I don't know if there are hockey fans in here, but shout out him. Also, this is my little rant too, because I thought about it right before the show. And I'm glad the NBA Finals is getting some attention on ESPN and those platforms. They got to do a better job at promoting hockey. Because as much of a global sports platform it has become mainly football and basketball. But if hockey's never going to get that attention if they don't start promoting the sport better. You got 2 finals going on at the same time, and one is getting talked about for 50 minutes and one is getting talked about for 5. Where are the ESPN analysts for hockey that should be talking about it for 20 minutes while you talk about NBA Finals for 20 minutes? But now you got 10 different guys. They got 10 different guys talking about basketball and no guys talking about hockey. I just don't like the unevenness in the distribution. As a general sports fan who wants to learn about every sport, I'm not learning about hockey if the top networks aren't talking about it.
I love it. Go to bat, baby, for the NHL. My man, Mr. Chris Meglio. And I don't think you're wrong. I feel ESPN for just to close the thought here. I feel like ESPN does a poor job at times covering college baseball and softball. And you are the main broadcasting vehicle of these sports, and yet you'll devote the entirety of Get Up and First Take, and understandably so, to the NFL, which is, probably your bread and butter and your cash cow, right? And the NBA. But man, you broadcast these sports. You own the contracts. You could pay these sports a little bit more attention, and probably it's chicken and the egg. If you say, hey, we don't get the ratings on those sports, well, if you put a little bit more of your own time into it, you probably would get more on the ratings into the equation.
Exactly. I would love to hear a little more about Connor McDavid and Dry still. Blanking. It's hard to say hockey names, so I'm not the biggest hockey guy, but that's why I want to hear about it. I'd rather hear more about Connor McDavid and less on Shedeur being the 5th string quarterback, whether he could start by October.
I like it.
I saw it 3 times on Get Up and ESPN in First Take this morning. Like, man, how many times? That's why teams didn't draft Shedeur in the first 4 rounds. That's exactly why.
Too many people, too many distractions out there with Shedeur Sanders. Hey, what an awesome crowd tonight. Thank you guys for being in here and hanging out with us on Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live. We're going to be with you. Next Thursday, I've got a broadcasting. I've got another broadcasting conflict, but I'm thinking maybe we can do a Wednesday show if you're available, Chris. But outside of next week, every Monday, every Thursday, 6 o'clock right here, Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live. And I hope you guys will like the channel, subscribe to the channel, like this video, share it. That's really the best pathway for us to success. And if you're so generous, super chats, that helps support us and help support the voice of college football as well. But other than that, hey, thanks, guys. Go Hawks. 79 days until football. 79 days until Hawkeye football. Until next Monday at 6 o'clock, everybody have a wonderful Thursday evening. And let me see here. Thank you to T. Hink, to Hawkeye Howard, and to James, our initial 3 callers on Iowa Hawkeyes Primetime Live. For Chris, I'm Josh. We'll see you guys next week. So long, everybody.
Thanks, you guys, for coming in. We appreciate it.